Hey guys, so I wanted to talk to you today about risk mitigation because, as you know, a lot of people had a lot of issues with this pandemic, with the moratorium, and I think it's really essential that we talk about risk when it comes to our investments, and this can apply to really anything from short term to long term and all the in betweens. So, when it comes to my standard leases, I like to do pre screening. Now, I can't stress the importance of pre screening enough because this is when you're going to learn about your tenants and what they're doing and who they are. And you also need to make sure that you meet these people because if you don't meet them face to face or have your representatives, aka your property management or listing agent or listing broker or whatever, meet them, how the hell are you going to know who these people are? You got to make sure that your tenants are, people that you want living in your house, okay? And it's good to make sure that your energies match because if your energies don't match, I'm going to talk a little bit crazy right now, but if they don't match, then, you know what I'm saying? You're going to have issues. And so when I go into a standard lease, for example, I have my criteria spelled out considering my background in private mortgages and subprime lending, and also my background with being a broker associate. I passed my test, by the way. I'm about to open up my own company. But anyways, so I like to kind of take from all my experiences and all my investment aspects and just mix them all together. So credit scores are great. They're an awesome basis to go by, but don't determine an entire report off of the score. And I'm going to tell you this just because of the fact when I was rebuilding credit, I learned a lot about the credit systems, and they are a mess. They are horrible, and the scoring system is terrible. It's so terrible that there is 10 different scoring modules to pick from, and that's only from one company, and I mean the FICO systems. That's what I mean, because there's 3 companies. It's confusing. It's a mess, okay? It's just a mess. We're not going to go into that. We'll do that a different day. But, so, we're going to look at the entire report. We're going to look into the credit accounts. So we want to check the utilization. We want to make sure that the utilization is within reason and that there's not a lot of revolving debt every single month for our occupants, because if there is, how are they obligated to pay us and their creditors? We want to make sure that there's no late payments in the last year or 2 years even, just because, and maybe if there was like one slip up, I understand. Maybe someone, got sick, something, whatever. That's okay. But if there's like repetitive late payments to creditors and there is just habitual errors, and that's a red flag. So in addition to the utilization and the late payments, we want to also check out, and also the utilization. We also want to make sure that there isn't recent evictions. If there's a bankruptcy, when did it happen? How recent was all of this stuff? Because that's really going to be important. Now, an eviction that happened 10 years ago is not important to me because people change, they grow up, and it's just the reality. I'm not going to judge a person based off of their 10 years. I'm going to judge a person off of their 2 years, 5 years even. 5 years for evictions and the more serious credit hits, just because of the fact that it is a very serious thing. And also, if there is not that much history, I like to just get a cosigner involved. And if they're not able to get a cosigner, since I'm in Florida, I'm allowed to ask for additional rent. I'm allowed to ask for a reasonable security deposit. And I really just stress the fact of getting an additional cosigner just because. Even if it's their friend, they can get their friend. And when there's a will, there's a way, you know what I'm saying? So by all means, get it, because why not? You have an extra person on the contract that is obligated to pay and ensure you're paid. Now, after all of this is said and done, right, and you have all of these aspects considered and everything's all good, right, we're going to look a little bit further into the backgrounds. Now, the backgrounds, I'm really big on looking for anything to do with financial issues. So like if somebody is known for laundering money, or somebody was stealing money, or somebody had worthless checks repetitively, or they were making fake checks or something weird, there's a lot of creative things out there. that's going to be a really big red flag. Now, if the person's also really violent, red flag, because I need to make sure that all my tenants and neighbors are going to be safe and okay too. And I have to ensure that there's not going to be any conflicts, okay? It's not just you're picking a tenant to live in your house. It's you're picking a tenant to live in your house to be the neighbor to all your neighbors, which is really, that's a big obligation, you know what I'm saying? And you have to ensure that the quality is going to be good for everyone and everyone's going to be able to mix well, because the last thing you want is to have a headache on your hands, because that is the definition of a real estate transaction, is a headache. And we want to make the headache as minimal as possible, okay? So with the background and the credit, we're good, right? And we just want to ensure, are we going to be taking pets? If we're taking pets, we need to have additional security, and we need to have additional rent potentially. We need to have a non-refundable pet cleaning fee. And honestly, I would just be concerned about having dangerous breeds, because insurance companies won't insure certain dangerous breeds on the property. So really look into that. And that is completely optional, but I'm just letting you know to check with your insurance, because your investment homeowners insurance, and I'm saying investment homeowners insurance because it's different than just homeowners insurance, that's really who it's going to come down to. And you need to make sure that you're within all of the obligations that they are requesting of you, or else you could get into a lot of trouble and, you know, not be able to get your payout if a peril happens. So dangerous breeds, are you going to even allow pets? You know, have those additional criteria. So for me personally, coming from the background that I have, I like to ensure that the credit scores are at 580 plus. Now, if it's a little bit lower on the verge, you know, being 580, somewhere near, cosigner. If there's another occupant in the house that has a good score, then I'll be okay with it, you know, but cosigner. All adults need to have credit and background checks if this is a standard rental lease, just because of the fact you need to know your tenants, okay? You don't want to not know the people that you're renting to. It's just a mess, okay? Don't do it, you know, try to make some form of connection with them, whether that's through your agent, your property manager, your friend, I don't know, just figure out how to make the connection and ensure this is going to be a good, healthy mix. So as far as doing evictions, right? Because evictions, when it comes to rental properties, are evident. It's just a part of the game of being an investor, and this is something we have to talk about. Okay, you can't avoid it. It's just there. It's always going to be there, and eventually you're going to run into it. Me telling you you're never going to run into it would be lying, okay? And I don't believe in lying. So when it comes to the evictions, right? You got to ensure that you have your lease set out for the best solution possible. Now, I'm not an attorney, so always speak with an attorney if you're creating your own lease. But for example, talking about and referencing the state forms that I use in Florida, we have an escape clause for our tenants. So if they can't pay us and they need to vacate the lease, we allow them to, but they also forfeit up to 2 months worth of rent. And by all means, that's acceptable and reasonable, considering the fact that you're going to be out of tenant and now you have to have an added vacancy. So this is completely reasonable. I suggest having escape clauses, because you don't want to tie people down into something and not have an escape clause if you need to escape, because that's there for you too, you know? That's there for you too. It's not just for them. You don't want to lock them in there, because then you're screwed. You're also locked in. But if you create the freedom, you know, then you're good. You have escape routes. That's the whole point of investments, is to have multiple exit strategies if something doesn't work out, okay? And in addition to your escape clause, month-to-month leases, best form of investment term ever, because in Florida, right, you have to notify your tenant 15 days before the end of their term, which would be 30 days, 31 days, of the fact that you don't want to renew. And then that's the end of the term. Unless they paid you last month's rent, then you could give the 15 days notice, you know, for the following. But also talk to an attorney, because I'm not an eviction attorney. I'm not even an attorney. I'm not an attorney at all. Don't hold me liable, people helping you. So just do your best to understand that month to month is probably a friend. And also weekly, believe it or not, but weekly terms are amazing also, because then it's even shorter notice. But I suggest doing monthly if I had to choose, because then it's just month to month. You can decide whether or not you want to up the rents. There's like a lot of other aspects that go into this. You're not getting stuck into a 12-month thing and all of a sudden there's a freaking $500 hike in the market rents. You can have an escape route. You know what I'm saying? Freedom, realism, and humanity mixed into a contract, a lease. Good things, I promise you. The more restrictive you are in your lease and the more obsessive and controlling you are to your tenants, the more you're going to have friction, okay? You don't want the friction. You want to have a nice, smooth interaction, connection, and then it's kind of like science if you think about it. And this is why I like it so much. So be realistic, take additional security, ask for advanced rent if you're concerned, get additional grantors, aka co-signers, protect yourself and just be realistic. Don't be asking for the moon, because you're never going to get it. You know what I'm saying? Not all of us are going to be going into our spaceships like Elon and Bezos, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, if you guys need help at all, I'm here in Florida just by my lonesome. Okay, I'm not lonely. I have a bunch of friends, like my cat and my family, and I have some friends, but I'm here. And I'm opening up a brokerage, and I'm very excited about opening up my brokerage, and I will be having a property management company. And one of the things that we do in our company is we're going to actually be teaching investors who are new to the game how to select a property, choose the property, buy the property, and then leverage that property forward. And by all means, if you watch any of my other videos, I do sober living homes, I do creative homes, I do anything that is really awesome. Sorry, it's just awesome. It's cool. Real estate's awesome. So with me, you have more creative options and there's more exit strategies if something doesn't work out. Like, let's say that you're like, I'm going to go Airbnb, but then you realize all of a sudden the better route for you is going towards a community residential home. Like, there's so many different forms of investing, and just because you are going in one direction doesn't mean that you can't consider other ones as backup plans. And sometimes those backup plans end up becoming your main plans because the universe has got different plans for us, I guess. So call me, text me, and with those proper pre-screening, that's really going to help you. And also, I forgot to mention, when it comes to the income, you should always be ensuring that your tenants have a 3-to-1 at bare minimum. So nothing underneath a 3-to-1. And when I say 3-to-1, I mean the 3-to-1 ratio relative to income versus the rent or debt. So you want to ensure that your tenants are, through their entire household, producing 3 times of the monthly rent. Anything above that is amazing and beautiful and so securing, and just validate their employment, okay? Get evidence of their employment. You can also ask for even previous landlords' letters of recommendations for anything. Validate the information. Really go out of your way to validate what they're saying, because people lie, okay? And that's just the reality of it. So call their employers. Actually get up off your butt and call their employers. I know a lot of us don't do it, but we gotta, okay? We gotta do that. Like, hey, yo, what's good? And just call prior landlords and say, how was your experience? It's a 5-10 minute phone call and maybe you'll make a friend. So, I mean, what's the worst that can happen by just picking up the phone and talking to these people trying to validate? I have calls coming in. Goodness. So, by all means, use this pre-screening criteria to help aid your investments, because that's really the only way you're going to be able to leverage your risk, and be human. Okay, understand that there's going to be mistakes, understand that there's going to be issues, understand there's going to be red flags on a lot of people. You might get somebody who's had a late payment in the last year, and There was a concern regarding, I don't know, some random thing. They have a dog. I don't know. Just some random thing. You have to look at all of the red flags, because red flags are just a part of human nature. Sorry, you know? And when you get applications, you have to compare them side by side. You don't want to just be like, well, I want this one, and randomly choose. No, you actually need to compare them side by side and go over each one, every single detail. How many people are going to be in the household, because that is really important as well. You should have a limit for the number of people in your house, the number of animals allowed in your house, are people allowed to have big pools, are people allowed to do a lot of things, because in Florida, right, we have septic tanks and we have wells, and if the tenants go and they park or they put their big pool on the well or the septic, yeah, that's a really big expense. It's not a good expense that you want to be dealing with out of your pocket, okay? And you should just have all of these things tied into your pre-screening and just be upfront with the tenants about it. Say, listen, you're welcome to park your boats and your trailers, and like by trailers I mean like RVs, off to the right side, but don't do on the left side, because if you come over to the left side, it's just going to be problematic and you're going to be held responsible for it. So that's really it. And call me, text me if you need my help. I got you guys. Peace out. And stay tuned for the opening of my brokerage. So excited. Hey. You guys need employment. I'm going to be paying better than most of the people here. And by here, I mean in Brevard County. So yeah, 90% for experienced agents, and you can earn up to 100% after the brokerage cap, which is only $15K, considering, it's 90%. It's better than a lot of other places that I've worked. So, yeah. Peace out, guys. Bye.